Wow, just like that, back with another Portable Clint. All right, guys, my next guest has been a standout to me. I've always paid attention to this guy. For some reason, I love this dude. I don't know much about him, but I'm gonna know more about him after this. Ladies and gentlemen, Todd Robert Anderson.
Hi.
Whoa, look at you. Look at you. Yeah.
Is that a good entrance?
That was beautiful, dude. That was beautiful.
It's nice to have someone who likes me.
Well, no, dude,
You're
I
the
love
one
you.
guy in LA,
Well, yeah.
and you have a show.
Well, there you
who
go.
likes me. That's great.
Todd Robert Anderson.
That's my name. All
You
three
go by
of them.
3 names on everything you go by in Hollywood?
Professionally, I have to.
Just because at SAG?
Because when I joined SAG a bazillion years ago, there were already like 17 Todd Andersons. Right down to there was a Todd R. Anderson.
Dang, dude.
So I almost made up a name. I almost called myself Colby Scott, which is my dad's middle name, and people mistake me for Scott all the time. Like,
Okay.
like they think my name is Scott. I don't
Wait,
know
it's
why.
not?
No, it's Todd.
Oh.
Like I've talked.
Maybe I got the wrong guess. No,
Probably do.
I'm kidding.
Anyway, so it came down, but they had Todd Robert Anderson, so I thought it'd be easier to keep my name. But somebody on the internet, because you know how people on the internet are helpful?
Yeah, oh, sure.
Like
sure,
the other
sure.
day, because I made a joke about a politician that this guy didn't like. First he called me dumb, but then he explained to me the reason why my career's not taking off is
Oh,
because
that's
my
nice.
my name is too clunky and it doesn't sound
Oh.
good. I was like,
Maybe he's...
maybe he's right.
No, I was going to say that, but he's not. So that's ridiculous. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Todd Robert Anderson.
You can just call me Todd.
No. You're a 3-namer. I'm going by 3 names today.
The whole time.
Todd Robert Anderson. Let me ask you this. I'm not. I'll stop.
All right.
When did you first start thinking about moving to Hollywood, California of the United States of America?
When I was a kid.
Okay, but I want to know, like, to me, like when I saw Stripes, I'm like, that's what I want. Or when I saw certain movies, certain shows, I had this thing inside of me that was boiling. What were the projects that you saw when you were a kid that made it start boiling for you?
That's hard to say. For me, I loved the movies out of the gate, which
Yeah.
was weird to my
Yeah.
parents because they're not movie people at all. So I would always beg them to go to the movies. But honestly, it's cliched for an old white guy like me to say Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark. But really, those were the movies that I first saw. But when I saw them, I wasn't like, oh, I want to be an actor.
Right.
Like when I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, I wanted to be an archaeologist because that seemed like a very good job with lots of adventures and attractive ladies.
Sure.
And it turns out archaeology is not like Indiana Jones at all.
It's not?
No, you just dig in the dirt
Oh.
and you like find.
Where's the adventure in that?
Find bones and stuff.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, but if I want to be Indiana Jones, I'll be an actor.
Okay, but what project did you watch? I want to be an actor. When did you start thinking like, all right, Mom, Dad, I got an idea here. When was that, and what, and how?
It was because of a teacher I had in junior high who had she did an acting scene class in junior
Yeah.
high that was an elective, and she's like, oh, you should do this, and she was doing a play, so I went and did her play, and I was like, oh, I like this. I remember a friend came up to me after the show and was like, you found it, you found your calling, because I didn't really fit in anywhere. I sucked at sports. And I was like, oh yeah, because this went well.
Yeah.
People were laughing at what I was doing. And that's when I connected. I was like, oh, and I love the movies, and I love this acting. I should go to Hollywood. And
Okay.
then my parents said, no.
Well, no, I want to talk to you
you're not
about
going
that
there.
because you said at the beginning your parents weren't movie people, and all of a sudden their son wants to go out and do that. What was their thinking? I know they say no, but tell me a little bit more about the no.
Well, the no really didn't. My parents were very actually supportive
Sure.
of me being an actor. They were just glad that I wasn't moping around sad that I sucked at soccer or whatever. But they didn't want me to come out here because it was too far away. My
Okay.
mother was like, no.
I'm sorry, did you say where you're from? Where you from?
Massachusetts.
Okay, Massachusetts. Okay.
Very small.
I've never known. I don't think I've ever met anybody from there.
From Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're probably lucky.
Okay. Okay.
I'm kidding. Sorry, Massachusetts. No, seriously, you guys suck. Yeah, I grew up in a very small, white, privileged outer ring of suburb, small town, about 35, 40 minutes from Boston.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason I fell in love with the movies too, because, I was certainly privileged, but I was the least wealthy in my town. My town was very rich. So when my friends had spring break, they would go to, Bora Bora or the Poconos or whatever the fuck. And I was stuck in town. Nobody was around except a couple friends, and we had nothing to do. So we went to the movies. Like, I saw all the movies.
I did too.
And that was how I dealt with, sort of being a outcast in a small town.
Right.
Was going to the movies and dreaming. I mean, I saw everything. I literally saw, I don't know how old you are. You're younger than me?
I'm 50 years old.
Oh, okay. So you're my age. I'm 48. So I don't know if you remember this, but in the 80s, it might have been late 80s, maybe 1990, I don't know, somewhere around there were 2 dance movies dedicated to a dance called the lambada.
Yes.
And so they made 2 movies for this dance craze. One was called Lambada, the Forbidden Dance.
Right, I remember that one.
And the other one was called the Forbidden Dance, parenthesis Lambada.
See, maybe I don't know if I know which one's which.
Both came out on the same day. And I saw them on a dare, basically, on opening night, back to back, both of them. That's how many movies I went to.
Okay, I dig that.
And it was all coming from here, so this is where I wanted to go. But my parents were like, well, you can go out there and struggle or whatever, and that's fine, you go, but we're not giving you any money for that.
Okay.
We'll give you money for college, but then we want you to do college on this side of the Mississippi. So I went to NYU, is where I went.
You went to NYU. When did you start packing the car to move out to here?
Well, it wasn't an overnight affair. What happened was, after I graduated school and my parents were no longer footing any bills, I, had a couple of shitty jobs in Manhattan. Couldn't afford to live in Manhattan anymore. So I lived in Astoria, Queens.
Okay.
In basically a one-room shack in the back of an alleyway that was split into 3 rooms for me and my 2 roommates. And there were
spacious. And
they were both allergic to cats, and everybody around us had cats. So all the mice in the neighborhood gravitated towards our shack.
Wow.
And I that year I had not gone to like Times Square New Year's Eve. So that year I was like, I'm doing it this year. Wound up getting the worst flu I've ever had. The heat went out in this one-room shack. It's the dead of winter. I'm freezing to death. I feel like I'm dying. There are mice eating my clothes and my food. And so I finally decided I need to, and I had racked up credit card debt living like this. So I finally said, fuck, I gotta go. I gotta beg my parents to let me live with them for a year so I can get out of credit card debt, save up money to move out here, which is what I did. I did it in about 9 months' time instead of a year.
How old were you when you rolled into town?
I was, it was 95. So I was born in 72. I don't know, 23
Okay,
or
that's
something?
fine. So 95 from 95 you got in here. Where did you move to? I like to know the specific location.
The first place I lived was in Studio City, on Moore Park Street in Studio City. 12751 was the address. It no longer exists, so I feel okay about saying.
Yeah. Okay, so what's going on with Todd Robert Anderson from 95 to 99? Because 99 is when you got your first IMDb credit. So what were those years?
Well, it started... Well, my first job was at a place called the National Research Group.
I worked there.
Everybody did.
Yeah, dude. I still loved that job.
I hated it.
Well, did you recruit people off the street, or did you work at the screeners?
Oh no, I was in the phone banks.
Oh,
so I
yeah,
was cold calling people and doing surveys about movies.
Right.
And the surveys were intensely long, and if you didn't finish it, it didn't count. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I remember when I was doing it, one of the movies coming out was "Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood."
Right. That's the brothers.
The Wayans.
The Wayans.
Keenan Ivory and all them.
How much is a rib? Remember, I think that was a line.
Yeah, that was that in that? I think that was.
How much is just one rib?
That was
Chris Rock?
Chris Rock in shit. That was Hollywood. No,
Yeah.
Hollywood Shop. No. I'm gonna get you, sucker. That's
Yeah,
what that was.
that's right. That's right. Okay.
That's what that was. And he did that same.
He had a lot of money.
Yeah. He did that same bit with a newspaper in another movie.
Did he really?
It was like a bonus at the end of the credits. Maybe it was CB4 or something like that.
Okay.
But at the end of that was, tell you what, I'll give you a nickel. You just tell me the good news. That was the punchline. Sorry, I really, spoiler.
That's funny. That's
Yeah, it was
funny
good,
right there. Okay. So
I did that
You
for
were
2
gonna-
weeks, and
for
it was
2
like,
weeks?
fuck this.
Okay,
And then
okay.
I got a minimum wage job working at a place called Monty's Sugar-Free Bakery and Gift Emporium,
okay.
which was a small chain in LA at the time. This one was in Studio City down the road from my apartment.
Okay.
And I worked in the gift store, and I met a lot of celebrities there. That's a good way to meet celebrities.
good
When
way,
you're
yes.
Minimum wage job, you know exactly what kind of people they are.
I bet. Okay, so again, that's for 4 years you're doing that?
No, I did that for about, I got lucky in that I did that for about a year. While I was doing that, I was, of course, doing theater.
Okay.
I was in a theater company that my buddy Steve Falk actually brought me into this theater company. He's
There's
the
no
showrunner.
relation. There's no relation to Peter Falk, is there?
No, no,
Okay.
no.
I saw that name the other day. Is he your buddy? He's the guy who
He's
created.
the showrunner of You're the Worst.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. We'll talk about that in a second.
Right.
But it's
So
all
this
about,
is so I went and joined his theater company. I did a play called Our Country's Good, which is about an Australian penal colony. I played a rapist. There's a rape scene in the play. And I did the play, and after opening night, I got a call from a commercial casting director, or a commercial agent, actor's agent.
Do you remember the name of this agency?
They were called C'est La Vie at the
Okay,
time.
and
And the
have-
joke,
have-
I'd audition and people would always go, oh, you're with them. We don't book. C'est La Vie.
Yeah, I bet, yeah. There's many opportunities to use that with that agency.
Yeah, so I went, which struck me as funny. I was like, so you saw me playing an abhorrent racist and thought, this guy's perfect for commercials.
Yeah, that's funny, man.
So and it took me about a year of auditioning and still working, and I wound up getting a temp job at a bank after I got fired from the I didn't get fired, I quit from the
Sure.
Sugar-Free Bakery and Gift Emporium because they changed my schedule and I had a play, and they're like, no,
And you
can't
turned
do the
tables
play.
over?
And I was like, well, I'm doing the play, that's why I'm here in this town. I'm
Good.
not here to do this job. And they were like, man,
Todd,
it
that's
was
such
like
a perfect thing because a lot of that's when people start, they move out here to do the acting, and then they get that side job. And then that side job slowly starts taking over
can, yeah.
because the boss doesn't want you to go to your audition because today's a little bit more important than your audition, and then you just slowly get away from why you're here. So I'm glad you stuck to your guns.
Well, it's hard because no one, understandably, nobody wants an employee who this is the second thing they're doing.
Exactly.
But I was sort of, my logic was, well, I know some people need multiple minimum wage jobs just to make a living, and that, so some people it is their first thing, but you know, you're paying no money. You're not paying really a livable wage.
Right,
so
right.
of course this is not my first thing.
Yeah.
I want to move
That's a
on
good
to
point,
another
yes.
thing. And even if you have a minimum wage job and that's how you make your living, you probably have two more. So deal with it.
Yes,
You're
yes.
not going to be number one unless you money.
Right.
If they had been like, we'll pay you $30 an hour to change your attitude, I'd be like, okay. And then maybe I would have stayed in the.
But I'm glad they
gift
did
emporium.
it. But that would have been even a worse thing, getting paid more, because then you would have started denying your career while you're out here.
That's true. That's very true. I could have.
Okay,
Minimum wage.
minimum wage, man. 1999 comes. You book your first major gig.
All right, so there's something that you don't see in IMDb.
Tell
and
me.
you-
I love studying IMDb pages. I love it.
You and I know this because we've seen each other in the trenches.
Yes.
My first jobs got me a SAG card were all commercials.
Okay.
My first commercial was directed by Bob Dylan's son,
Jesse Dillon. I love Jesse Dillon.
Who's totally wonderful.
I love that dude, and I know why he hired you. Besides you being awesome, you look like a Jesse Dillon because I was one of Jesse Dillon's guys for one time. I had the red hair.
Yeah, he liked the ginger.
Yeah, he liked the gingers. But I
gotta
loved him. I still love him. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like
I
he's-
haven't seen him in
I haven't
forever.
either.
Yeah,
I haven't
yeah.
either. But I love that dude.
Yeah, it was
He-
great
he
work.
took- yeah.
Great working with him.
So you
Straw
booked-
Dogs was the name
Straw
of
Dogs,
his
that's right.
production company.
Which was a takeoff from a movie with
Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman.
And now James Marsden.
Yes. Okay. So he books you. What was your first commercial?
It was Pacific Bell. That's
Okay,
how long
yeah,
ago it
yeah,
was.
yeah.
And it was for a product called three-way calling.
What's that?
You can talk to three people can talk on the phone at the same time.
What?
Yeah, they could all talk together.
No, that's crazy. Tom. Okay, that's crazy. Okay.
So I did that, got the SAG card, and I was working at this, gift emporium. And my dad called. My dad's always sweet, trying to help,
Sure.
But he doesn't know anybody.
Was your dad one of those guys? He was kind of rough when he's talking to you. You better get the real job, son. But yet he really cares about you and doesn't want you going through a tough time.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Well, he doesn't like my Facebook feed. He says it's depressing because I'm woefully honest about things. But he was always very supportive, and he wanted to help. He wasn't like one of these. You got to do it. You got to do it. It was one of these parents. Maybe your parents said something like this. Hey, why don't you be one of those cops on a CSI show?
Sure.
Or a Law and Order show.
Sure.
Like you can just
Sure.
do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So he didn't really understand, but he knew a guy that he worked with at IBM, whose daughter was currently out here as a casting assistant.
Okay.
So he kind of set us up, not on a blind date, but like a blind business date.
Sure.
She wound up she went to school with my roommate. I did not know this. When we got
Wow.
together, she's
Wow.
like, oh my gosh, we went to school together. So she started hanging out with us. We became friends. And then when because her boss would come in and get coffee where I worked, and I talked to her, Denise Chamian is her name. And she...
Wait, Denise, I always thought it was Denise Champion.
Chamian.
Is it? So I'm so glad
There's
I
no
never
P.
said that. Okay.
Yeah, there's no P.
The casting director, right?
Yeah.
And she's still around. I'm thinking about the same one. Okay,
Yeah, she
wow.
became,
Okay.
Like when I started, she had just started working for Spielberg.
Okay.
So she was just becoming like a giant casting director. But she needed somebody to file headshots, so I would go there after my shift at work and just file headshots in her office just for an hour or two. But as I was doing it, this is horrible.
Wait, 1 second. What does filing headshots mean? Like, meaning once they get it in the mail, tell me what's
Like
that?
they would get a package. Everything's done digitally now. So
Well,
this
yeah, I know, but
they would get an agent would send all the clients that they wanted to get auditions for the show, and I would be going through them and putting them in the file in the right parts.
Okay, got it. Okay, go.
So there was
sorry.
a cop show called
yes.
High Incident at the time, starring Matt Craven, and I would file headshots for that show,
okay.
and I would make fun of the people who had
Sure.
the goofy headshots,
Sure.
including there was one lady sent who was a hand model, literally sent just a picture of her hands because that's all she had. So they all thought it was funny that I was making fun. So I made Denise laugh enough times that she was like, hey, do you want to audition for... And she called me and I auditioned for Saving Private Ryan. I didn't get it.
You didn't?
No.
Okay.
But it was cool to know...
I'm kidding.
I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I've seen it. I've seen your IMDb page too.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. That would have been on there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I did well. And it was cool to know that my face was in Steven Spielberg's house.
Dude. Yeah.
But then, because she liked what I did, came in prepared, professional, all that, even though I worked in a gift shop, she brought me in on a movie called Blast from the Past, which Hugh Wilson, R.I.P., was directing.
Wait, I'm sorry, who
amazing.
died? Who?
Hugh Wilson.
I don't know him. So tell me about
You know
him.
his name. He produced and directed WKRP in Cincinnati.
Okay.
He directed Police Academy.
That type of legend. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you.
So, I was excited because I love WKRP and I was a Police Academy guy. So I was excited just to audition for him, and he was really nice and cool. It was, just a bit part, but he had me on, so I got to work with. I met Dave Foley, who was one of my heroes at the time. I got to Brendan Fraser, Alicia Silverstone. I got to hang out with them, and It was cool.
Would you say that you worked with Brandon Fraser at the height at the end of the height of his main moment?
No.
I'm not saying he's done in life. I'm not saying he's
I
done.
know what you mean.
Okay.
I don't think he would disagree with you. But no, this is like predates The Mummy by some time.
Okay.
And I would say The Mummy was the height of his career.
Okay, so this is 1999. You book a major motion picture, which I've been out here for 33 years. I still have not booked a major motion picture.
It's the only major motion picture I've done.
Why? I'm gonna get off. Let's pull over on the side street really quick, okay?
Sure.
Why guys like you and I? Why is it so hard for us to get a major motion picture?
I don't know. I mean, I just think that there's so many mysteries about this business and how it works. And I mean, I think part of the reason is, for me anyway, is I don't have any family in the business.
So, okay, all right.
That seems to be the number one lucky stroke. You're born into a family in the business. Also, you know, I'm not classically handsome, so then you're relegated to character actor.
Right.
And being a high pro, I think the last time I was here, I saw Michael Shannon. Speaking of character,
I've worked with Michael Shannon. I love that dude. He's one of my dream. Yeah, he's awesome.
Did you see that movie, Take Shelter?
No.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Watch that movie. He's amazing in it. Anyway.
I did a movie, Grand Theft Parsons, with him and Johnny Knoxville.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And dude, it was one of my best acting experiences. I mean, it was one of my main best. It was my favorite acting gig I've ever done because Michael Shannon was so awesome to me.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's great.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, my point is there's a guy. He's a character guy.
Yes.
He plays leads, obviously, in the quirky independent movies. But when he's in a A-list movie, he's a supporting guy and all that. I think it's just really hard to get to the level where you're in one of those package deals at the top. Like my agency is small. They don't have package deals. So if you don't advance as a character guy to be part of those package deals, then it's harder to get those high-profile gigs.
But what worries me is that you're on a show. You've been on a show for how many years?
I was on a show for 5 years.
You were on a show for 5 years, and that didn't open any doors for movies?
Not really. No.
Okay. All right. Let's get back on the freeway and talk about what we're here for. Okay.
I mean, it didn't, like, all that did for me was make the notable difference between the before You're the Worst and after is if I walk into a room where people have seen the show, which is not every room, but when I do, I'm received warmly. And there's something about that. Like, people always say, you know, you gotta, when you walk into the room, the audition room, you gotta know that they're rooting for you, whoever they are. And
that's good advice right there.
It is good advice to approach an audition. I don't think it's entirely true. And whether they are or aren't, often rooms are cold, you know, and they sit back and they stare at you, and it's up to you to bring the energy up and do whatever it is. And that can be a lot of pressure and very difficult. When you walk into a room and people already know you, you know, you're not a stranger. On some level they know you or feel like they know you, it makes it easier. So that's the notable difference.
Okay, since we're talking about You're the Worst, let me go ahead and talk about this, and we're going to go back in time after this.
Okay.
What's cool about You're the Worst is I discovered it and started watching it and started loving it. And then I saw you at an audition, and I actually went up to you, I don't know if you remember this, going, dude, I've been watching you nonstop on You're the Worst, and you're great.
Thank you.
And then a month later, I get an audition for it, and I book it. I don't know if you remember, but we worked together on an episode.
We worked on the Seventh Layer episode.
The Seventh Layer. Look at you, the seventh layer of the bean dip.
Well,
and you answered the question, what's the seventh layer of the bean dip?
Right, we can't figure it out.
But what I love...
But that was a full half hour. That was special for me, that episode, because that was a full half hour of just me and Alan McLeod.
Yep.
And we were not series regulars, we were just recurring guest stars. So for a couple of recurring guest stars to get a whole episode dedicated to them, where the series regulars basically aren't in it, was like, wow. It was special. And then we got another one on the last season with Janet Varney. It was the three of us, which was awesome.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. You do a fantastic job playing that character.
Oh, thank you.
This is one of those questions you hear on TV, so I'm sorry to ask a cliche question. But how close are you to that character in real life?
In that I like to drink a lot.
I don't know. It's just you're very. I just for some reason it fits you perfect. Like I think that's really you being picked up. I'm not being anything specific about drinking. Just your character in general.
Yeah.
I feel like was it a stretch? I hate asking this question because this is what those other shows ask. But was it a stretch playing this part? It wasn't.
No, I mean I'm not Vernon at all. I first of all I don't have his confidence, however misguided. I'm not confident like he is, and he's got certain viewpoints that I don't hold. But
I haven't seen every episode, so I'm just saying for the most part, I don't know. I find them very enjoyable, and that's the way I see you.
I grew up with friends like that and guys like that.
Okay, so that's the reason why you were so good.
And I certainly, when I was with, guys like that, friends like that, on a certain level, I try to fit in because that's the way I am. When I'm hanging out with whoever, I tend to adapt their behaviors, try to be cool or whatever they are, nerdy, whatever it is. In their case, they're like Vern. So, yeah, that's how I found that guy.
Okay, well, Todd, I'm going to tell you something. You are more confident than you think. You do realize that, right? I mean, you do carry yourself very confidently.
It's all lies.
Well, no, that's fine.
Facade.
But that's fine because that's what we do here in Hollywood. Everything is a facade. But you're still carrying yourself very proudly. It's not like a, hey, I'm this dude. No, you're like, dude, that guy is somebody right here. I could just tell by your presence.
Oh, thank you.
So like I said it from the very beginning, you've always been a standout to me.
Thank you.
You can't be a standout if you don't have any confidence.
Well, that's true. That's true. I have a certain amount of confidence in my abilities.
Okay.
So there's that.
Well, okay, there you go.
I just I guess my insecurity comes from I don't know that anybody's going to see that on a when I walk into a room right away.
Right.
Like I constantly feel like I have to prove myself on some level. Not everybody's like you. Is what I mean.
You shoot that show for 5 years.
Uh-huh.
But let's back up right before that. Right before you book it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, are you putting out your best product? Why do you think you booked a big project? Why do you think, when you auditioned for this, and did you audition for Wendy O'Brien for this?
Oh, yeah.
I love Wendy O'Brien.
She's wonderful.
She is absolutely wonderful,
yeah.
right?
I auditioned for her yesterday.
You
it's
did?
always good to see her, yeah.
It's always good to see her.
She makes me feel good. Makes me feel like I'm funny.
Right?
She enjoys... She's one of those casting directors who actually enjoys working with actors in the room.
Yeah.
And seems to really have fun with the process. And, yeah, that's special.
I'm going to say a little secret about Wendy O'Brien. I always think that she likes me the most, right? But then when she doesn't see me, I see her treating the other actor exactly the same way she treats me. And I'm like, dang it, it's just not me.
She's just like that.
She's just awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot of over the years I've known a lot of casting directors who are like that. And,
yeah.
I mean, they're always my favorite, but I do that insecurity is not with Wendy, but others.
Yeah.
Like, wait, is she? She's just putting that shit on. She doesn't really like me.
Okay, so from 99 to 2014, you're just going out booking anything you can book, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did.
You did some good stuff. I'm not glossing anything over. I'm about to hit
anything. But most of my money I was making doing commercials. I mean, I've done.
How many commercials?
Over more than, almost 23, 24 years of doing them.
Right.
Somewhere around 100 probably.
Okay, I'm sure it's over 100. And here's what's great about you, Todd Robert Anderson, is that you've been doing commercials and you're still doing commercials.
Well, they'll have me. I mean, there's enough casting directors.
Well,
to
I know, but I'm
saying
saying you're still booking big, high-profile spots after all these years, dude. That says something. Do you realize that? No, I mean, don't.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So the thing is about people like you and I shouldn't speak for you. I'm going to speak for me. I'm just dumb enough to keep staying in this business. You think that helps you? Do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I stay in is because I keep getting enough work to make some money.
Right. That's same with me.
So therefore, like, going out and starting a new career, one, that's daunting to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to graduate school.
No.
I don't want to. I mean, and if I had to start a full-time job now, one, I'm pushing 50.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I don't think I can do like heavy lifting.
No. Okay.
At this
Same
point.
here. Same here.
So I don't know what it would be. So I feel like at this point I've just been in it so long. There's not a lot of choice.
But haven't you noticed a lot of people that you knew in this business are no longer a part of this business?
Yeah, for sure.
Isn't that
But
scary?
at the same time, I know people who haven't had my level of success, who still wait tables and haven't quit.
Right.
So,
And God bless those people.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to point something out. So right before you book You're the Worst, you did some web series.
yeah, I did a web series for a website that no longer exists called geeknation.com. It was called The Film Pigs.
Did you create that?
I did.
Okay, you created that right before you booked You're the Worst, which you did 33 episodes of.
Well, the truth is the Film Pigs history is much longer than that. Film Pigs was one of the first things I did in LA. I did it on stage. We did staged parodies of movies.
Okay.
We did them at midnight after other shows. We would just use sets of other shows and do it there. This is after we did it. Then there was like they did the Brady Bunch stage show, and then now
this.
everybody
Yes,
does
yes.
like Point Break the musical.
Yes.
But when we did it, nobody else was doing that shit. So, and we had like at least very underground. We would sell out shows at midnight.
That's
In
awesome.
99-seat theaters for a number of years. And then we moved into podcasting when that became available, and then when just through a friend, Geek Nation was happening, they were like, hey, would you do this? Because we were doing reviews of movies in our car. We would go to a movie and then sit in the car afterwards and just talk about the movie. Usually kind of lit.
Sure, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
they liked that and they wanted us to do something like it, so we just did a little kind of a sketch show.
Okay, here's my point. This is me studying your IMDb. Do you think because you stayed active and created stuff and did stuff that it helped you book a recurring character?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, with You're the Worst, it's very specific because Steve Falk was also in the Film Pigs.
Right.
Basically, from the very beginning, we did the stage shows together, and then the web series together. Like when he got You're the Worst greenlit, it was a big deal for him, and FX didn't know him so well that he could just go, hey, have this guy.
Right.
So I had to audition for it, and when I auditioned for the pilot, and it's because I knew him that he was like, call this guy in for this. But it was just a bit part. It was literally in the pilot, Vernon, who became Dr. Vernon Barbara, was just called Groom. And it was...
That's when the part you auditioned
two
for.
lines.
See, this is what I love. I love little things that turn out to be big things. Go ahead, 2 lines.
So 2 lines.
At Wendy O'Brien's office.
Well, that audition was on a lot, not
Okay,
at her
go ahead,
office.
go ahead.
But anyway, so I went in and I did it, and it was only 2 lines. So in the audition, I ad-libbed a couple things. But as you learned in You're the Worst, they weren't big on ad-libbing. You didn't ad-lib.
Right,
on You're the Worst.
right.
You stuck to the script.
Yes. Why is that? Why do some sets allow it and some sets don't?
I think it's entirely on it's the showrunner and how they like to do things.
Okay.
And so, like I did that show Angie Tribeca,
Yeah.
which is so silly
Yeah.
and so goofy. And I remember I was doing the scene with one of the leads, and we started ad-libbing, and he's like, I'm gonna get in so much trouble for starting.
Really?
And they came back like, dude, what? And he's like, come on, we're just screwing around. We already did it right a couple times, you know.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, so they're hardcore about that on this show, which is funny, but it's a matter of, especially with comedy. And the thing about You're the Worst is, and Vernon specifically, is it was so much fun to get the scripts. And like so often when I get half-hour scripts, I'm like, I can punch that up a little bit. I can punch that up a little bit. But I'd never needed to because they wrote such funny ass things on the page. I was like, oh, all I got to do is make this work. And Vernon wasn't that easy because he spoke in his own language essentially. So memorizing it was like kind of like memorizing Shakespeare because you don't necessarily know right away what he means. Yeah. And you have to figure it out.
Are you good at memorizing?
Yeah, I am good at memorizing.
How long does it take you to memorize a paragraph?
It depends on the paragraph.
It's this long. How long would you need?
I could do it in a half hour.
Okay.
I had an audition a couple weeks ago. I went in. I started reading, and there were like 14 pages for this guest star, and it was all legal jargon. Like, so I spent hours like memorizing these 14 pages because I was like, I can't go in and be on book because it's just going to be stumbly fumbly and it's not going to work. So I had to memorize it, and I go in and I start, and they go, what are you doing? And I was like, the scene. And they're like, these are not the sides that we have. I was like, what are you talking about? And apparently Breakdown Services had sent, because there were two characters with the same name for two different shows, they sent me the wrong sides. They were supposed to send me a different 9 pages of sides.
Oh my God.
And the casting directors were very apologetic. It wasn't their fault at all. It was Breakdown Services screwed it up, but they were like, why don't you go and come back later this afternoon? But I had all these other appointments, so I was like, I can't come back later. Yeah. So I have to do this now. Give me a half hour. And they're like, are you sure? It's a lot of material for a half hour. So I said, I'm sorry, this is the best I can do. Yeah, so I went out and spent a half hour. When I came back in the room, I could see they were still like, are you sure? They were very, like, they didn't want me to screw up. Right. I was like, no, let's just do this. This is the only time I have. So, and I did it, and when I was done, they were like, that's awesome. They were blown away that I only needed a half hour. Did I book the job? No.
That's not the point.
That's not the point. That's not the point. That's not the point of auditioning. No. It's to feel better about yourself.
Okay, let me ask you a question. So, say you have an audition today at 5:45, okay? Are you dreading all day today until after 5:45? Are you like, man, I can't wait to be done with that audition today? Or are you excited about your 5:45?
Again, it entirely depends on the audition. If it's a commercial?
No, it's a theatrical gig, 3 pages of dialogue.
If it's a part I'm excited about, then I will be on edge all day. I don't think I'll be driving myself nuts. Okay. I can, if I busy myself with other things, writing, whatever. But if the thing that happens is if I have a late audition and I have 3 to however many pages, then I wind up rehearsing because it's the only thing that keeps me from getting too nervous and it keeps me out of my own way if I just keep memorizing, which is probably better for the audition.
Todd, we're gonna start winding down.
All right.
So I'm gonna have some questions for you.
You didn't ask me about Devil in the Flesh 2.
I was just about to ask you about that. Okay, really? Kidding. Okay. No, we're not that done, but we're just going to start kind of winding down. So let me ask you this: how many false starts have you had in this business?
False starts.
Meaning, this is the project. I just booked this. This is going to lead me to it. I'm going to have made it because of this.
Well, I would say at this point it's all of them.
Yeah, same here.
I would say the biggest lesson in that, I learned that lesson kind of early because same year I got married and I had mono.
You got mono on your
on my wedding year.
Oh wow! Okay.
We both had it. We were so skinny. I know. We looked so good.
Dude, I was going to tell you, I got in high school. It was the best diet I've ever been on in my whole life. I wish I could get it today.
We looked fantastic after struggling for 8 months with mono.
You had mono for 8 months?
Yeah, we had it forever. It lasts longer the older you are when you get it.
Okay.
So anyway, and I booked a job. I actually went to, I had auditioned for this, a project that Zy Perry was doing, the American Pie guys.
Yeah.
And the casting director liked me, so they were doing this other project. She's like, hey, would you come do a table read, for free? And I was like,
I know a lot of people who book parts for doing those free table reads.
yeah, I did the first time I did it, and then the next 3 times I did it, I didn't.
Yeah,
And I stopped doing it.
Yeah.
Because it was like, now I feel like I'm getting used.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I went in and, I was reading the supporting role that they hadn't cast, and the director thought I was really funny, and the producers thought I was funny, so they offered me the part, and I was like, hell yeah, give it to me. And it was funny. It was like sort of a weird science-y, because American Pie was a knockoff of Porky's essentially, or an update. I don't know what I'm gonna call it. So this is sort of like their weird science. And I thought it's the American Pie guys, and it's got the hot chick from the Doritos ads. And
Sure.
This is gonna be a big deal. But it, went straight to video, and that was that.
All right. Worst time in Hollywood. Remember, nothing personal, just business. How many times have you thought, or have you thought about throwing in the towel?
A lot. I think about it all the time. I mean, I still do.
I know. But what's the closest you've ever got to going, this is it, that's it, this is it?
I think probably in 2008, when we got double whammied with a writer's strike and the economy crashing.
Yep.
And I went from, getting lots of pilot auditions and testing a couple times a year to not even getting bit part auditions anymore. Like after the writer's strike, and I had just bought my first house. So, and if it hadn't been for the HARP program that Obama set up, I would have lost that house. I refinanced through that so I could hang on to it and lower the prices. Yeah, it was then. I was really close to like selling the house and bailing. But
Okay, what pulled you out of that?
I booked some commercials.
Commercials is something that every actor wants to quit, but it's the one thing that always gets you through the hardest times.
Well, and I'm realizing that now that all of guys like us, guys and ladies like us who are bit players. Let's call us bit players.
Sure.
That's what Dabney Coleman called me, a bit player.
Wait, I want to hear about that after this, but go ahead.
Okay. Which I think is a denigrating term. And not fair,
I just want to hear why Dabney Coleman called you that.
I'll tell you that story. But I think you can't, especially now. I mean, they find new ways of paying us less. What used to be a week-long guest star is now a day. They'll shoot it in a day and pay you for a day. And they find more and more ways to pay less and less money, and it pays less money on cable than it does on network TV, and network TV is a dinosaur, blah, 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 blah. So the only way to supplement that income is commercials. So, and I get really bothered about, because there's still stigma about commercial actors, as if we're different than people who do TV shows. Obviously we're not, because we do it all. Without the commercials, there's no way you can make a living. Then it would be a hobby career. This would be a hobby. And it's a lot of work for a hobby.
This is still a lot of hobby. I mean, a lot of people are. It's still a hobby to them.
There's a lot of hobby careers.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. But that's not me. I mean, and also obviously I've never. It's like, I'm no fan of David Mamet, but he did say a salient point that if you have something to fall back on, you will. And I've never had that. So
I don't have anything to fall back on.
I keep having to roll with the punches and
Same
deal
here.
with it.
Same here. That's exactly what I got. I mean, I could totally quit and move back home and get something there, but that's not even an option in my book.
Right. I mean, I could move back home, but there's nothing for me to do there.
No, I got you. Best times in Hollywood. Oh, wait, hang on. Before I answer that question, tell me why Dabney Coleman called you a bit actor.
I was doing a show he was on, and one of the series.
What
leads,
show was it?
The Guardian.
Okay. You did a few episodes of The Guardian. We never got to that.
Yeah, I did 3.
Okay.
Which is cool. I liked Simon Baker a lot. I liked everybody. Raphael Sbarge is seriously, like everybody says Tom Hanks and Henry Winkler are the nicest. No. Raphael Sbarge is the nicest guy in Hollywood.
Really?
Yeah. He's a doll. But he, obviously empathized with, because it's hard being a guest star.
Sure.
Because they call you a guest star, but you're more just a guest.
Yeah.
You're not really a star. and a lot of times the insulated community of a show isn't necessarily warm and welcoming to somebody who's going to be there for a day or two.
Right.
So, but Raphael was very kind and said, I'm going to the commissary. You want to come to get lunch? And I was like,
Dude, that makes all the difference in the world.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. So I went with him and hung out. It was down to earth. We were just chatting, and one of the other series regulars sat down. We were chatting with her, and then Dabney Coleman sat down, and I was like, cool. Dabney Coleman was a hero of mine.
Sure, yeah, same here. He's from my hometown, Corpus Christi, Texas.
Oh, right on.
Okay.
Yeah, like Short Time was one of my favorite.
Oh, dude, I love
comedy
Short
ones.
Time.
Yeah.
I love Short Time.
Yeah, and you can't get it on disc.
You can't find it, man.
No, I have it on VHS.
Oh, I love it.
It's terrible.
It's where he thinks he's going to die, so he wants to die
in the line of duty.
In the line of duty.
So he gets the insurance money.
And he doesn't.
Why can't you hit me?
One of the best car chases I've ever seen still.
Yeah, it's a funny car. Yeah, it's a good car chase. Anyway, so he sat down, so I'm like a little starstruck. I mean, I have a scene with him later that day, which is funny. But so he starts talking, and he finally goes, who are you? And I was like, I'm Todd, I'm playing this part. And he goes, you can't sit with us.
No, please tell me you're joking.
I'm not. And I said, I thought he was kidding, because he plays a lot of acerbic characters, so I was like, he's doing an acerbic thing. But then when I looked over at the other actors at the table, they were like, don't listen to him. We're sorry. They were like genuinely apologetic, and I was like, oh, that's cool. If I'm not good enough to sit with you, I'll go back to the trailer. So I bailed.
Did Dabney ever back it up? Like, hey, no, just kidding. Hey, come back here. Come back. Nothing.
No, I didn't. For the rest of the day, I didn't. The only time I talked to him was when we were on camera together.
Dang, you dude, you just gave me a mental earthquake with that news.
Well, I'm sorry, but that everybody has bad days. Maybe it was just cranky.
But still, that sticks with me right there.
Yeah, it stuck with me.
Yeah, I bet, right?
Yeah. Here's what here's my positive takeaway from it. This guy was a total asshole to me for no reason.
Sure.
Unprofessional.
Yeah.
I didn't have a nervous breakdown. I didn't fail. I brought a great performance for the scenes and a scene with him. Boom. That's a professional.
That is a professional, and it's a kind of cool story to tell people.
Yeah, that's true. When things go poorly, it makes for a better story.
Exactly.
When things go well.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. All right, really quick. Best days in Hollywood.
Honestly, when I was simultaneously doing the Film Pigs web series.
Yeah.
Which I was writing for, and I directed and produced and, acted on, and was doing all this stuff, even though it was shoestring, no money. But doing that, and at the same time having a paying gig in You're the Worst to go to on a semi-regular basis was a nice feeling.
Yeah, dude, that's great.
But weirdly, for me, it's consistency, because when I first started, I got a recurring role on a show called Nikki.
Yes.
For a couple of seasons, and that was another really happy time for me. Even though
because that was an NBC show. No, wait, what? That was USA.
That was WB.
WB. You did 7 episodes of that.
Yeah, over 2 seasons.
That's great.
Before they canceled.
Were you constantly waiting? Hey, we're checking your avaavailability for next week.
Yeah, they would call. Yeah, and say,
that's a fun phone call.
Oh wow, yeah, and it was nice. And then I remember went out to dinner at what's the name of that place in the valley where Robert?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's that Italian place where Robert killed his wife, or didn't kill his wife. Sorry, did not. That's where he did not kill his wife.
The Vitello's?
Yes.
Yeah.
Vitello's.
So I was there, and we were just having dinner, and one of the writers was at the table next door, and I didn't really know who the writers were. I didn't talk to them. It wasn't I wasn't that aware of who people were, because it was early in my career. I was just happy to be working. But anyway, he was like, I'm one of the writers on the show. We love writing for you. I was like, that was the first really nice feeling I got, and that's what I loved about You're the Worst, because they loved writing for Vernon. If you have a staff of writers who love writing for you, that's the best feeling.
You know what? That nails that part for me. What they just said, they love writing for you. You could tell they loved writing for you because your character was so rich. So I back that up. Okay, what's the best piece of acting advice that you keep in your back pocket?
You mean for people who are...
For anything, just what gets you through the days when you're having a tough time on a set, when you're just, what's something you lean on? Just something you've learned over the years.
When I'm having a tough time on set, then I just remember I'm getting paid. Because jobs don't have to be easy. If you get paid, it's cool.
Right,
if you're not getting paid and I'm having a hard time, then I'll probably just leave.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's true.
So that keeps me going. Like I've worked with some monstrous people in the early on, especially in commercially. Probably people you might have worked with early on. I don't know, who are awful, and it was hard to get through the day. The day felt like a nightmare, and eventually I learned just to remind myself. You're getting paid. You're getting paid.
This had nothing to do with the casting director on Homewood Boulevard, is it?
I'm maybe.
Okay. All right. So
I love the casting directors. It wasn't them.
No, the casting directors were great, right?
Yeah, they were
wonderful. Great. They were great.
They tricked you.
Yeah.
You had fun in the room. You had no idea how bad it was going to be on set.
Exactly. Okay. I think we are done here.
All right.
Let me ask you a couple last questions.
Please. The other advice about acting.
Oh yeah, and I got something else I want to.
I always tell people, because people ask me like, how do you do this? I'm like, I really don't know.
Yeah.
Like if I go back to the beginning of my career and explain to you how things, like we kind of touched on stuff, but it's weird how it's like, you get a job, a minimum wage job, and then you make friends with a casting director's assistant who will call you in to file headshots and then get you an audition. That's crazy. That's not a system. That's arbitrary. But the one thing I always tell people is, don't wait to act. Like even now, I have a YouTube channel called Blursh Influencer Empire.
Okay.
It's kind of making fun of influencers, and I just make silly selfie videos. And that's something I have money to do and the technology to do.
Right. And
it keeps me creating stuff.
And that's so important, because me doing this, again, this is my own therapy. Exactly. I don't have a gigantic audience. I'm my own audience because I love doing this.
Right.
But it helps so much with everything when you're doing something creative.
That's true.
Instead of just waiting at home for the phone to ring, which was what I was doing before I did this.
Right. And now there's like I do podcasts, like anything I can do. Like I don't do theater anymore because I have a kid.
Yeah.
And if I did theater, I'd never see my family.
Exactly.
So, but these are things that I can do to keep me going until I eventually, once he's in high school, college, then maybe I'll go back and do theater. But
I'm going to point one thing out. This is really pointless, but you did 2 CSIs of the same show, but 2 different characters.
That's correct.
I did the same thing. And I was like, wow, they don't remember me 12 years ago when I did it 12 years ago?
I think the casting director does, but they weren't. Like some shows are hardcore about that.
Yeah.
They don't want anybody because they're so precious about their. But some like CSI where it's just contained episodes basically every week. They'll go back to the same actors. So that it was a 7-year difference. Okay. And when I went back, I was like, did they know that I played a different part 7 years ago? And one of the producers said, yeah, we bring back the ones we like.
Well, that's nice.
Like,
that's nice.
Cool.
Who's the guy who he's the CSI dude, the cool looking dude? He went
George Eads?
Yes. George Eads. I worked with him twice. But there was a span of 7 to 12 year difference. It could have been 5. But it was really interesting because I met him the first time and he didn't remember me the second time, so I had the whole experience of meeting him again and him asking me the same question.
Did you tell him at all?
No, I didn't, because, very nice to meet you, buddy. Very nice to meet you. And I'm like, well, I met you before. I didn't want to go through that. Okay. Is there anything else I need to know about you before we shut it down?
No, I mean, no. You saw You're the Worst. I'm willing to do nudity.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Good.
That's all you need to know.
That's what they wanted to know. Again, Todd, Robert Anderson, I'm doing this because you always stood out to me, dude, and I appreciate you. I appreciate your humor. You're a funny dude. You're a likable guy. I have big hopes for you, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I really do. You're going to be a series regular on some other show very soon.
Thank you.
Okay, do me one last favor.
Do you produce?
I produce this.
Oh, okay. Well,
so just know you booked something today. Okay, Do me one last favor.
Uh-huh.
Oh wait, I want to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
Tell me about your ring.
Oh, this ring.
Yeah.
This is a.
I always see people with that. I'm like, what's going on with this?
This was a ring that my grandfather had when he was a kid, a teenager. All the kids wore them because they look like Mason's rings, and
Yes,
they
that's
thought it
what
looked cool.
Yes.
And when I was coming out to Hollywood, he gave it to me,
Oh,
and he
that's
said,
awesome.
if things go to shit, you can pawn this.
Oh really?
And I put it on my finger. I haven't taken it off.
That is
I
awesome.
take it off obviously
Sure,
for
yeah,
parts where it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
appropriate, but it's on my finger all the time.
That's awesome,
I'm
man.
ready to pawn it.
Okay. All right. One last thing. Will you tell everybody bye out there?
Bye out there.